How you doing?
He paused just so I wouldn't have the millisecond thing
Yeah,
down.
checks
I
the
know
mail,
how he
Dan.
is. Yeah. Hey, we're doing good. You said you're annoyed. Are you annoyed with life, with us, or just racing in general?
I'm annoyed with just life in general. About to relocate from Arizona to Texas, and a small town in Texas. Trying to get everything hooked up is not easy from a remote location. So we'll get there. Next time you guys talk to me,
Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Did you move already?
I don't.
Uh-oh.
He may have left us. We will try and
The next time you talk, I thought maybe you'd give us warning.
I would have thought, but yeah,
we have to try and
So,
hook that back up. So anyway, we're going to be talking, presumably,
yeah.
to Dan Beaver, who is the NASCAR fantasy racing expert writer for NASCAR.com and YahooSports.com. And you can follow Dan on Twitter at Fantasy Race and read all his stuff at YahooSports.com and NASCAR.com. Hopefully you can listen to him here this week and every week.
We will see.
And on Pit Row, the fastest show on Ustream TV. Although we are familiar with technical issues. It does happen.
It does. We
And
have had more than our fair
we're
share.
in the midst of happening one right now. So.
Well, yeah.
And actually,
it might
maybe
be.
it's us. Maybe you got a little. Did
Mailbox.
you put a little lead shielding like in the studio here? Because
don't know.
because Fellows' connection wasn't perfect today either. I mean, it was kind of.
That was
All right. Well, we'll have to see if we can maybe get hooked back up with Dan
Well,
here. But
we
anyway,
will
we're
see.
going to Richmond.
Dan's
one of
probably
my-
just talking away.
Yeah, we're going to Richmond, one of my favorite racetracks. Mile, right? No, it's actually like 3/4 of a mile, right?
Three-quarters of a
Three-quarters of a
mile, yeah.
mile. Kind of flat, mostly flat, pretty wide. Looks really good under the lights. Races well, I think. I think it's one of the. It's like the perfect track to have as the penultimate track of the race to the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. How was that? Thanks, Brian.
Very good. I
Brian,
like
where's my
that.
check, Brian?
I like that.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's quite the NASCAR-esque kind of response there.
wasn't it?
and now you're getting a sense of why I'm annoyed.
Dan, we could tell you stories that would make this pale.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's okay.
That's all right. It just was funny that you said, what you were saying.
You said the next time you hear from me, and then it cut off.
That's right.
That's what we call in the business a tease.
That's right.
And so it was great.
We thought that the Mayflower moving van had just pulled up.
So anyway, while you were away, we said all the nice things there are to say about you. And now it's
Okay,
time.
that's good.
Now it's time to get into the real meat of this segment, which is fantasy sports, fantasy racing predictions for Richmond. Now, before you get into your lineups and everything, is there any? Do you take any consideration that this is the race before the chase? Will there be anything that will affect your fantasy picks? I suspect I know the answer, but go ahead.
Go ahead. Absolutely. You've got 10 or 11 drivers, I think 11 at the outside, shooting for 5 or 6 positions on the inside. And the further you get down the list, the more likely some of the drivers are to do something silly, take a really wild gamble. Sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't. But that's going to really shake up the lineup, the standings on the final lap. And it makes this more of a wild card than it otherwise would be. Otherwise, Richmond's a nice, fairly predictable track. It's got a couple of racing grooves, so you shouldn't get into too much trouble. And it behaves as much like a super speedway as it does like a short track, so it's a nice balanced track. But when you've got people throwing Hail Marys right and left, it's kind of hard to predict.
Well, Dan, you talk about these 11 drivers, and Charlie and I kind of went down them, and there's a huge, group of scenarios for each one of these guys. But as you hit those 11, I mean, it seems like realistically there's not 11 guys that have a real shot at this thing. I'll just pick one. Brad Keselowski, in my mind, doesn't look like he really has much of a chance. McMurray, I don't think so, and Menard, I don't think so either. But Keselowski, obviously, because he's the defending champ, gets a lot of interest from most people. In your mind, so many things have to happen. Can it?
Realistically, it's just unlikely. I think we're looking at missing the chase. and then playing the role of spoiler throughout the chase. There are too many things that have to happen, and you get past Keselowski, and it's even more improbable for McMurray and Paul Menard. But those guys are going to enter this weekend thinking, I have a chance if I do everything right, if everything else goes right. And they're the ones that I think, when you get down to that part of the list, those are the guys that are going to be the most desperate, and they're going to gamble the most, and that is going to could impact where they finish. I think for the most part, it makes them a bad choice this week. Yes, they could win, they could finish in the top 5 if their gamble pays off, but the gamble's probably going to get pretty stretched there, pretty high odds, and they're less likely to make it work. You get above that, and Truex, he's got to win. Another win would help. He could get up to the points. Kane, Gordon, those guys, even they're going to have to do something that's not superhuman, but out of the ordinary to get up there. You look at last year's race, and Gordon racing Kyle Busch for that final spot in this event was about as dramatic as we've seen in recent years. And this year we could see that same thing playing out between him and Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch doesn't do particularly well under stress. Could slap the wall, could change the handling of his car. But Gordon has been so bad on restarts that it's a bit of a push. I'm just not sure which of those two guys hovering on either side of 10th place in the points is going to have the best shot. Gordon's got a little more experience overall. He's coming off last year's good, strong run, so you'd have to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But he's got 6 points to make up, and that's quite a bit. You got to make it 6 spots, and if Busch is running in the top 10 at all, it gets incredibly difficult.
All right, so as we take a look at your A, B's, and C's for this week.
What are yours, Steve?
Well, I tell you, this is a tough one here. Trying to get this. We'll try Dan one more time, and we will give it one more shot here, and see if we can get hooked up one more time.
I didn't pull any stats because I rely on Dan to do all that stuff.
Well, that's.
But I think in the past, when he was a contender to make the chase, Denny Hamlin was your go-to pick here. I mean, Hamlin was you went to Richmond, you picked Hamlin, and I'm presuming that's probably not going to be the case, but I fully expect to be wrong at that.
Well, do you remember how many times we used to complain about Ustream?
Yeah,
being the bane of all evil.
Yeah.
Well, today it is Sprint that is causing us some problems.
Sprint has been very bumpy locally for the last 2 weeks. I've had issues with my phone.
I believe that Sprint, at least in our area, is upgrading.
Well, they can't downgrade,
and they are. In the meantime, they are downgrading.
Yeah, it's been a real issue for me. I've had terrific phone problems. So Dan, we apologize for that. Hopefully,
it's on our end, not yours. Which
seems
unfortunately, we will see if we can get hooked up with him again. I don't know if we're going to be able to. If not, we will just we will give it one last shot.
We'll punt.
If not,
we'll just make our picks.
We'll make our picks. We'll go to break and we'll
give everybody links to go to Dan's stuff and read about it.
We will try one last time here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Our picks are.
Oh, thanks for the warning. What an ass.
Thanks.
Let's see. Well, Beth, who's your pick? I'm taking Jimmy Johnson.
Wow.
Richmond.
Okay. Beth Ann?
I was going to say Jimmy Johnson, but I guess I'm going to go with Casey Kane.
I knew she was going to pick
the fact
Casey.
that I took him, is that what took you off that pick? Oh, great. Yeah.
Wow,
Thank
okay.
you.
So two Hendrick Motorsports drivers. I'm going with Joey Logano.
Yeah, he's a good pick. He's been on a roll for sure. I'd say the last 8 races or so. He's really seems to have that car dialed in, and